In my over 20 years of experience now in working internationally, I've come to realize that going global and undertaking global efforts are segmented into at least 4 distinct phases, which I don't hear as many people speaking about. And I wanted to create a video for the Planar website to serve as a foundation for conversation and discussion going forward. I believe these 4 phases are the framework by which any organization should consider going global or enhance its existing global efforts. In a nutshell, the 4 phases are reaching the decision to go global, creating a plan by which to go global, launching and implementing the plan, and fourth, and probably most importantly, and the one which least discussion exists about, is how to sustain successful global efforts over an extended period of time. Reaching the decision to go global, why go global? There's any number of reasons. There are at least 5 or 6 major global trends affecting us all today, which are opening our eyes to the need to think more internationally. Going global provides opportunity to maintain thought leadership, to maintain being your industry or profession's primary source of information on a global basis. If you're not undertaking global efforts, chances are somebody else is on behalf of your industry or profession. Point being, there might be a cost for not undertaking and acting upon global efforts. And lastly, it's an opportunity to elevate the standards of practice if you're a trade association, or to elevate standards of practice for a profession if you represent a professional society on a global basis by garnering and recognizing that good ideas have always come from everywhere. We just recognize that fact more and more today, and to take advantage of those good ideas from everywhere to act upon on behalf of your industry or profession. Second phase, if you do reach a decision to go global, and keep in mind your mission and your strategic goals should be able to translate globally as they do domestically for you. But if they do, how do you plan your global strategy? There's any number of options, but again, at a fundamental level, there's a handful of things common to virtually all trade associations as well as professional societies. You're going to need to determine what your governance structure will ultimately be globally. You'll need to determine what your business model is going to be. It's not just the altruistic goal of being international, but at some point sooner than later, your board of directors is rightly going to say, what is the return on our global investment? Figuring out who to work with in country, regardless of the governance structure and business model that you gravitate to, is another very important element. Establishing trust and understanding their expectations of being involved is very important to being able to undertake your global efforts. And of course, there's legal ramifications, protecting your intellectual property, registering to do business, any number of other things related to legalities that you'll have to pay attention to. Having administrative capabilities to undertake your global efforts is another one of the major areas, and also figuring out what form of communications you will maintain, both to share with your domestic members, but also your newfound international members, as well as your board and staff. In the third phase of launching and actually implementing your global efforts, there's a couple things that frame that part of the discussion. One is the concept of being inclusive and transparent in your efforts will help advance and maintain the buy-in of all of your targeted audiences better. The question of how do you prioritize what countries to go into, or how do you prioritize which products or services which you want to offer the global marketplace, are other considerations, certainly for the launch and implementation phase. Something that people touch upon, but few have thought through as well as perhaps they should, is how do you build the capacity to undertake global efforts? It's not as daunting as you might think. There are any number of models which you can apply to better assure successful launch in different parts of the world. Protecting your intellectual property, as mentioned in the planning stage, is something that you want to act upon at the beginning of any global efforts so that no one else can get the rights or use your intellectual property anywhere else in the world. And lastly, referring back again to the planning stage and administration, as much as you can, get your documents in order, which take three different forms normally. One is a charter document to help guide people in other countries how they can work with you and what's required of them. Another is a letter of agreement. Many organizations now are doing memoranda of understandings, but having a legal document is preferred to provide leverage to the headquarters organization and to protect the interest of the headquarters and organization. And lastly, there's going to be a lot of questions about how to do even some of the most fundamental things that your organization undertakes and that you do want to do globally. So how-to guides for things as fundamental as educational conferences or any of the other menu of projects or programs that your organization undertakes will be important to have in hand for launch and implementation. And lastly, this concept of how do you sustain over a longer period of time, an extended period of time. It's no small effort to reach decision, to develop plan, and to implement, but keeping in mind what the end point and the biggest strategic goal you have for going global is very important to do as much as you can up front to give yourself a better chance to maintain successful sustainability over that extended period of time. And there's a couple of considerations to keep in mind with that. One is there are patterns for success as you launch into each country. Simple things like maintaining the leverage of the organization, making sure that it's relevant, accounting for the expectations of your other country colleagues, things like this that through time have proven, if accounted for, gives organizations a better chance for longer term success. Another thing is recognizing cycles of evolution. Once a decision is reached to go global, one does not simply go to the wall, flip a switch, and in 18 months be on the ground in 20 or 30 different countries. It's an evolution. You'll find from country to country, as I describe it, a Groundhog Day effect. Each country will go through similar patterns of evolution and development, but expect that to take at least three different forms. When you launch in a country, it will be a developing effort for several years. At some point, if you're successful, there will be stabilization of your effort in that country. And through time, if you are able to sustain that success, your organization in country, whatever form it might take, will be more sophisticated and what we call developed in that country. And lastly, from a sustainability standpoint over extended period of time, doing what you can from day one and continually throughout all of your global efforts over time is maintaining the buy-in, not only of your board of directors, but of your domestic members as well as your staff and your international members, not necessarily in any order, but all of your target audiences need to maintain their buy-in, and to do so, you need to continue to provide additional benefit every year for both domestic members and international members. And if you're able to do that and maintain the relevance of your mission and organization, obviously you give yourself a much better chance for sustainable success. So going forward, I want to attempt to frame the discussion of global efforts in one of these four different phases, and in identifying the four phases, hopefully making it easier for organizations to understand where they are on the curve of their own global evolution and being able to identify and prioritize what needs to be done strategically for the organization to continue its success. Thanks very much.